Yeah, see, I'm on the Metro.
Now we got a little mini one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Doesn't ring.
Georgie. Okay, thank you, Georgie. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Monroe-Naylor, absent. Mr. Collins, Ms. Gresham,
Present.
Ms. Hurst,
Present.
Attorney Murphy,
Present.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Here.
And Mayor Sarno.
President, can we all please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll now move to Section 2, approval of the minutes. Approve the minutes of the following school committee meetings. A is April 24th, 2024, school committee public hearing on the FY 2025 budget meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gresham, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor, absent.
Call the roll.
Mr. Collins, absent. Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient vote, the matter passes. Thank you. B is the June 20th, 2024 regular school committee meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor, absent. Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Ms. Gresham,
Yes.
Ms. Hurst,
Yes.
Attorney Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mayor Sarno.
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Madam Clerk, could you please recognize School Committeeman Chris Counts? Thank you very much. We'll now move to Section 3, presentation. We got a special presentation tonight from the Ignite Mentoring Through Music presentation. And SciTech is in the house with award-winning band, Director Gary Bernice, my man Anthony, who came through the program, now teaching there. So I will turn it over to Madam Superintendent, Dr. Sonia Deneau.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I look out and I see the faces of those who will help us lift music to the next level in Springfield Public Schools. So excited about this Ignite Mentoring program, and I'm just going to turn it right over because I see instruments, and I know that we're going to rock it out tonight. So I look forward to hearing it. Please, I turn it over to Julie Jaron.
I didn't see you, Julie.
Good evening, school committee members and Springfield Public Schools community. I had the good fortune to attend a meeting the other day where Chief Schools Officer Milner shared a powerful Swahili phrase with us. Thank you. It speaks directly to the superintendent's imperative of educating to empower. The phrase's meaning is best explained through an excerpt of a sermon by Reverend Dr. Patrick T. O'Neill that, with his permission, I'll share with you now. Among the most accomplished and fabled tribes of Africa, no tribe was considered to have warriors more fearsome or more intelligent than the mighty Maasai. It is perhaps surprising then to learn that the traditional greeting between the Maasai warriors, Kaseri and Gera, means, "And how are the children?" It is still the traditional greeting among the Maasai, acknowledging the high value that the Maasai always place on their children's well-being. Even warriors with no children of their own would always give the traditional response, all the children are well. Meaning, of course, that peace and safety prevail, that priorities of protecting the young and the powerless are in place, that the Maasai society has not forgotten its reason for being, its proper functions and responsibilities. All the children are well means that life is good. It means that the daily struggles of existence, even among a poor people, do not preclude the proper caring for its young people. I wonder how it might affect our consciousness of our own children's welfare if, in our culture, we took to greeting each other with the same daily question: and how are the children? With our children's wellness in mind, I'd like to introduce Gary Bernice, Director of SciTech Bands, to speak about a new initiative intended to ignite musical and leadership opportunities and build strong community ties for our students of Springfield Public Schools.
Before Gary speaks, you recognize School Committee Woman Latonia Naylor, and we're also joined by great Principal Kevin Laline from SciTech, too. Thank you. Gary, the podium is yours.
Well, thank you, Julie. We want our students to be well. And that's why I'm excited to share about this new Ignite program, because every single member of this school committee has provided the support to take our students to the next level. From Mayor Sarno, always inviting students to perform at every inauguration, to Vice Chair Gonzalez playing that mean saxophone, you are all appreciated. We're ready for that next level. And I also think about Superintendent Dinal and how you talked about healing and bringing our schools together at your first community meeting last year, and that's what Ignite is about. And speaking of healing, I only have a few minutes, so I'm going to be real with you. I want to share something hard and something beautiful. But let's start with the hard. The pandemic was very hard. I had one student take their own life and two former students take their own lives in the span of 17 months. It was devastating. There was no connection, just isolation. Coming back, we knew that connection, authentic connection between students was the priority. In fact, our student leaders, even the ones you see here today, began to mentor other students. We found that the healing that we sought from outside was already happening right here from the inside, from within our student body. Students guiding other students, students teaching other students, students listening to other students. They don't always listen to me, but they listen to each other. You can hear a pin drop when students address each other. That's what we want to harness. That's what we want to ignite, because there's power there, there's healing there. So as for the nuts and bolts of this new pilot program, I want you to imagine something beautiful. Imagine once a month, buses pick students up from 12 schools after school and bring them to the Community Music School of Springfield. High school students and mentors arrive first. Middle school students arrive next. Elementary school students arrive last, all greeted by their older mentors with a cheer. So let me hear everybody do that. Let me hear you cheer. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. Let me hear the cheer. So that's what they hear. The elementary school students are hearing that from their older mentors every day that this is happening. Students go to their spots. They take out their instruments and start playing. Hundreds of people are warming up. Student mentors are helping get younger students set up. As the beautiful chaos is happening, a student leader and a staff member come to the podium and gently put their hand up. And students quickly quiet down and listen to hear the goals and objectives for the Ignite session. After a large group warm-up, student mentors bring their instrument sections to smaller rooms and lead focused small group lessons. This is all supervised and supported by the Springfield Public School music educators. Our student mentors teach other students about rhythm, notes, breathing, posture, improvisation. Maybe they're even leading a lesson about how to empower students so they can use their own creative voice through their instrument. Whatever they're teaching, it's awesome because they're awesome. Once the small group lesson is over, the mentors lead students back to the large concert hall to have a final rehearsal with a large group where everyone, all the schools, are connected. After the rehearsal, student mentors serve dinner and mingle with their younger students, and then everyone goes home looking forward to the next Ignite session, but ready to bring that fire back to their own individual school the next day. At the end of the year, the program will culminate in a special performance for Springfield families. So the idea is that we can use this pilot program with 12 schools as the seed and a model to unite all of our schools. Phase 1 this year is instrumental music. Phase 2, vocal music. Visual art, dance, theater, there are lots of possibilities here. But put simply, we want Springfield to be #1 in visual and performing arts because we love students and that's what they deserve. Special is the people sitting in front of me. You've all laid the groundwork for this over the years. This didn't just happen overnight. You've laid the groundwork, and we want you to know how grateful we are and how excited we are to do this together for our students. And now, I get to bring forward our 3 lead student mentors for Ignite, Ricky, Rosie, and Arrowette. Give them a I will bring up our 3 lead teachers, Charlotte Walsh, Alicia Lopez, and Anthony Diaz. These students are my inspiration, and I know Ricky wanted to take a minute just to share about what being a mentor means to him. Ricky?
All right, Ricky.
Thank you, Mr. Bernice. What mentoring means to me is being able to inspire young minds to the fullest. I remember when I was in elementary school, I didn't have a mentor or a music program. And coming to SciTech, really, I was able to embrace the person that I was able to become. And there's a few years back, I was mentoring this kid. Ironically, his name was Ricky. And he really looked up to me. And he picked the same instrument that I play, which is the tenor sax. And one day, he looked at me and he was like, Ricky, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And in that moment, that ignited what I believe what a mentor means. It means to connect with each other, to be involved with each other. And I think that's the whole point of Ignite, to connect with each other and to fill that void that a lot of younger students are missing. And just to get with those students and have that passion for have that passion for music, to be involved and unite our community. And I believe that's what this Ignite program is going to do for us. And I am so blessed to be a part of that. And thank you.
And I'd like to invite our amazing partner, the executive director of the Community Music School of Springfield, Eileen McCaffrey.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good evening, Eileen.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Mayor Sarno.
Eileen.
Thank you all. This is so exciting. I just want to shout out to Ricky. Ricky has been in Community Music School. He's been in our STEPS program. He's a bridge leader. I mean, he's doing everything, so yay to you. I just wanted to say the Community Music School is a very proud partner in many parts of the Springfield Public Schools arts programming, and we are so thrilled to be part of the Ignite program. A decade ago, we started a partnership with the Springfield Public Schools where Julie Jaron and the Community Music School co-created a Sonido Musica program, which you all know. And then we moved on to the adaptive music program, which I think you're all aware of. And now we are the proud folks who get to host the professional development for the visual and performing arts teachers. They were just with us, 100+ of them, a couple of weeks ago, and we're just so lucky to be such a beautiful ecosystem here in Springfield, where we can share with each other and we can lift up the lives of our young people. The Ignite project is an exciting new chapter in this city's commitment to creating access for the arts for all of our children. I just wanted to thank Julie Jaron, the Director of Visual and Performing Arts, for this decade-long partnership with the Community Music School and for her tireless advocacy for children. For Julie, it's always about the children.
Thank you, Julie.
The Community Music School is honored to be in this work with the amazing Gary Bernice and the concept of what Ignite means in this pilot year. Together, Springfield is creating a national model on how community organizations can come together to support public education and what partnership does for students. Students like Ricky and the SciTech young people behind me, they deserve these partnerships so they can shine out their incredible light and allow all of us to see what is possible and to ignite the possibilities so we all thrive. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So we know you have a long meeting, so we know we couldn't leave without giving you a little 60-second taste of what we're going to be sharing with our younger students. So do you mind if we perform something for you? Is that okay?
Go right ahead,
All right,
Gary.
here we go. For you. To lift your spirits. We all need that.
All right.
Anthony. My man.
It's not Wednesday.
And if you don't mind, can everybody just give our students a big round of applause before we get
Prince Spaghetti.
Great job. Great way to open up the meeting. Maybe we'll do that every night.
Have to have a vice chair get on this.
Yeah, should have had Josiah play the sax. Okay, that was fantastic.
Well done.
Can't say enough, Gary, Kevin, whole team. Just a tremendous representation. Really nationally known what you've been doing here at SciTech. So keep making beautiful music. Now move to, yes.
Can we ask a question?
Oh, sure.
about it? Sure, thank you. So what will the ages be of the students at the elementary school? Will it vary, or you're going to concentrate on like 4th or 5th grade, or will it span K through 5?
The pilot program will start with 4th and 5th grade, just to kind of get the nuts and bolts going, but once we start to get that seed, anything's possible. We could have smaller groups of younger students being mentored, so it's not off the table for the younger students. But right now, the pilot program is going to be 4th through 12th grade.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions or comments?
One comment, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Taylor?
I just want to say, as I always do, I think that music is so important. I definitely name it as one of the reasons why I am still here, sane, because of the many things that I went through growing up as a child. So when I see our young people able to learn how to streamline their feelings, articulate what they're dealing with or what they're going through channeling that energy through music is very powerful. It's a lifelong coping mechanism as much as it is an art. So I just want to say, I always commend you all. I always tell Eileen the same thing, that what you all are doing is transforming the path for our children. They may never decide to go on and go in orchestra or some of these other places, but they'll always have something that taught them how to channel what they are feeling on the inside and how to express it in a safe way that makes everybody else feel joy. So I don't want to cry up here, but I just want to say thank you to y'all for really just moving me, and just the passion and the joy that y'all continue to do the work with is just exceptional. And anytime you need support on music stuff, you already know I am there, because I just believe in this 110%. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Naley. And again, to Gary, Jeremy Tudrin, who was the first breakout star out of sight, who's playing nationally now, the trumpet, does very, very well. And then you see it right here with Anthony Diaz. Anthony, that I remember when he was a kid, student playing the drums. Now he's helping teach and motivate that. So Ricky and the rest of the crew, you can follow on those. So fantastic. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing no, we'll move the voting items. A is to approve the course titled Mindful Movement. Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when I first received the request for this course, I was a little concerned because it just simply said mindful movement, but as I dug a little deeper, I saw that it was focusing on the whole child, that it was standard aligned, and that it also had a portrait of a graduate alignment. As you dig a little deeper, you see that this is focusing on not just breathing, but looking at the mental and emotional well-being of our students. And we know that post-COVID, it is critical that we focus on the whole child, not just focusing on the academics, but also making sure that our students are well, mind, body, soul, and spirit. So I love this course. I think it's a great addition to our course catalog, and I invite those who are here to speak a little deeper on it. Dr. Balch and Associate Principal Desiree Spinkler.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
We are so excited to be able to bring this course to the students of Springfield, knowing that it won't replace the health course, but it is an additional elective for our students. And while it is piloted this year at SciTech, now that it has entered the course catalog, we have plans to build the capacity of other teachers to begin teaching this course, not only just at SciTech, but across the district. And I think it's really unique when teachers find their passion for courses. This is something that the teacher was very interested in bringing, that we're able to allow them to explore that and share their passions with students in a way that is not only good for the students, but also good for our staff and our culture and our schools.
Yeah, thank you. And additionally, I would say, we're really excited to have this course and pilot it this year at SciTech. Last year, one of our educators, as well as a school counselor, partnered up and planned for professional development for our staff, and they're both trained on the Breathe for Change curriculum, and they really did a great job engaging staff and kind of taking a moment and stepping back and thinking about ourselves and our intentions and how we can best serve our students. And this was when they brought this into, fruition with, an elective format, we were really excited because, when we're thinking about the child as a whole being, it's not just the academics, right? You really have to think about the needs of our students, especially post-pandemic, and the social emotional learning. Really just thrilled to be piloting it this year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Vice Chair Gonzalez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you both for the presentation. I'd like to make a motion that we vote to approve the course titled Mindful Movement.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
There is a second.
Second by Ms. Hurst. Roll call.
Could I just
Yes.
comment?
Oh, yes.
There was a second.
Yes.
I just wanted to let the viewing audience know and the other members know that it did come through
Oh, yeah.
curriculum and programs, and myself and Mr. Collins were were there, and it did come forward to the full committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst, for clarifying. Just, we're starting a new school year, just to let the viewing audience know that many of these things you see is voted right through. A lot of hard work goes into this with the subcommittee meetings and the chairman or chairwoman of those committees, and hours are spent before this is moved by Superintendent Denault to the school committee here. So just to let you know, we appreciate the subcommittees. And I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. Okay, I think a motion was made. I believe that we have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Motion made by Ms. Hurst, second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, this matter passes. Thank you very much. B is to approve a course titled Video Games as a Narrative. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So video games as a narrative is intriguing, innovative. I love the fact that it is grade level and it is rigorous. We're taking a look at our ELA standards to ensure that students aren't simply playing video games, but they're using them and writing about them. So they are aligned to RI 910.1, WL 1112.3, and these are all Common Core state standards that have been adopted by the state of Massachusetts. So this course is rigorous, grade level, innovative, and very interesting, and I know that our students are going to enjoy being part of this course. Dr. Balch and Brian Dickey, if you could join us at the microphone to speak a little bit more about this opportunity.
Brian Dickey wasn't able to make it tonight, but he did approve the course. He worked really closely with the educator to build the course to make sure that it met all of the requirements and that they were analyzing text. They were looking at video games and character development and how those stories are told through video games as the way to engage and hook students, but really grounded in multiple theories and doing a lot of writing. So the course is really centered around deep analysis in writing. So when we can get our kids writing about something that they're very interested in, but it is grounded in all of the literary components, it's a bonus for all of us. So really excited that we are creating these innovative courses that are still very rigorous, meeting those grade level expectations, but also helping prepare our students to become better writers.
Thank you, Dr. Balch.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Vice Chair Gonzalez.
make a motion to approve the course titled Video Games as Narrative.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. And before we go any further, commend Dr. Denault and Dr. Balch and the whole team. Video games are here to stay. And our kids really, really get into it. So you're almost doing Back to the Future here. They like it, they get into it, they can learn, and now they can write about it and expand their skills and get their attention. So I give you a lot of credit to be innovative like this, Dr. Denault, and it's here, and they're all playing it, and some gamers are making some big money too. But get them to write and learn about it to help them with their other teachings that they need to know. I think it's important. Keep them enthused, keep them excited, keep them interested. So I commend you all. Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. I don't know if there's a second or any other comments on this.
Second.
Second by Ms. Naylor. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. You seek to approve the Chapter 74 course titled Programming and Web Development Program to be opened at the High School of Science and Technology during the 2024-2025 school year. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. So Programming and Web Design Program of Studies is an outstanding opportunity for our students to engage in a program or in courses that are progressive. They build on each other. So I love the fact that it's not a one-and-done course opportunity. It's an opportunity for students to engage in exploration in the 9th grade, build on that knowledge in the 10th grade, and take it all the way up from 11th grade then to 12th grade. great opportunity, increasing in difficulty and rigor along the way, and giving students a great understanding, a deep and meaningful understanding of web design and programming. So I yield the mic to those who are here to explain it further.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. So, my name is Shelley Zayas. I'm the district-wide director of Chapter 74 Technical Programs. This is Joseph Langoni. He's the district-wide supervisor of Chapter 74 Technical Programs. And as you know, we've been building more vocational programs at the High School of Science and Technology. So this is a program that our district does not offer yet, even at Putnam. So this is why we're bringing it new to you tonight. This is a program that is state approved. It is a typical Chapter 74 program, but we don't have it as one of the ones at Putnam yet. So this is something we really thought was interesting for our school because we are focusing on science and technology, and this is a program that is in that stream. And our students are interested in things such as gaming, as we know, and we just talked about. And this is one thing that does come under programming and web development. They will learn gaming, they will learn cybersecurity, they're going to learn to become engineers. So this is not only just a career pathway, but this is a college pathway for our students because they will continue to go on to college and do higher education in this field.
Thank you, Ms. Director Zayas and Director Langoni.
I would just point out also that the program is aligned to our regional workforce plan. So in addition to responding to a need for offering something to kids that isn't currently available, it responds to our workforce needs in the greater Springfield area as well.
Wonderful.
And we've been thinking out of the box on this because besides a great Putnam Vocational Technical Academy, we've expanded this to after hours now to our students, and they're going to pilot this. And this is another thing here that kids, web development, kids love doing that, so that's excellent. I don't know if there's any questions or comments from school committee members?
May I?
It's a tie.
My mic is a little louder than Ms.
Okay, all right.
I'm a little slow to draw.
And I'll go to Ms. Hurst.
So I have two quick questions. The first one is, when are these courses going to be available to students, the ones that we're approving tonight?
Immediately.
Wonderful. The second thing was a comment, and I love that I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, sir, but I didn't catch your name. And thank you, Mr. Langoni. And so I was in a training recently, and they talked about the huge gap that we're experiencing in this field and the fact that we are almost 7 years behind what we really need in order to fill the employment needs. So when you talk about the reality of these gaps, I think this is really amazing and timely that we're starting with such a young population, because at the end of the day, we are really behind the 8 ball nationally, not just here in Springfield, but nationally. So thank you for this.
But what we want to do is, in addition to training kids, we want to encourage them to stay home and make their lives here, because there are plenty of phenomenal opportunities to do that.
Absolutely. And my second question to Dr. Denal is, how are we marketing this to our students to really give them something to want to seek after? Because like I said, it is such a gap, and it's one of those things where they can graduate from high school, go into a field, and make a lot of money very quickly. So I think it would be a really big drawing card to get folks into SciTech.
Absolutely. So right now, because it's just unique to SciTech, I know that in-house they already have a plan and a strategy to ensure that the school counselors are having those large group conversations and then the individual conversations depending on the pathway that the student selects. So students will have a one-to-one, almost a customized conversation around what their schedule will look like going from 9th grade to 10th, 11th, and 12th, to ensure that they are engaging in learning opportunities that align with their interests, their personal interests, the things that bring them joy. So making sure that we give them a variety of courses, such as a vision is for SciTech and other schools in our district. But then I like the fact that you're saying that we need to market it as something that will draw folks to SciTech. So that is a bigger conversation. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So just to say one thing about that, I have been the last 2 years traveling with the guidance counselors during our road shows for 8th graders to tell them about our programs at SciTech, what we are offering. So we are starting to get the information into the middle schools. I'm working with FACE and working with them, getting the information out to parents as well. So we are trying to get that into the community. We did have an article last year about After Dark, so people are starting to hear about us in the city and see that SciTech is growing programs, but we definitely are thinking about that and talking about marketing. And Mr. Olim and I, we've discussed, and Desiree, we've all discussed ways about possibly bringing our students in to tour the schools, see the programs in action, because it's a little bit easy. It's easy to tell someone about something, but it's so much more impactful when they see it in person.
Absolutely.
So we've been working on that as well.
Great.
Thank you, Director Zayas.
I would just say also that the current ninth graders have to participate as a matter of law in exploratory rotation. So they may come in with some idea of what they want to do as a permanent pathway, but it's not uncommon for students to do a very quick 180 when they come into contact with a shop that they haven't considered. So we expect some movement as well among the current crop of ninth graders.
Thank you, Joe. I know Ms. Hurst was next, and I think Vice Chair Gonzalez would like to speak on it, too.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to add that this did also come before us in the Curriculum and Program Subcommittee, and just really wanted to call our attention to the course rationale. I mean, I think they've already spoken very eloquently to the point that this is going to prepare our students to be both college and career ready. And if you look at the wages or the potential wages, it is and can be a game changer.
Good money. Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Vice Chair Gonzalez, please.
Thank you all for all of this work. I move to approve the Chapter 74 course title Programming and Web Development Program to be opened at the High School of Science and Technology during the 2024-2025 school year.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Ordinance officially votes, this matter passes. Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks, Joe. Okay, we'll now move to D, approve an expenditure of $35,000 from the Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, for the FY 2025 Interpreter in Education Training Grant. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm reminded of the community forum several months ago when the question was raised around translation services and ensuring that all of our students, all of our families have full access based on their primary language. This is a great start. These funds will be used to lay the foundation for interpreter education and training, and then we will continue to build on that to ensure that all of our families have full access to every meeting, every community gathering that we have, whether they're in the schools or in the community. We want to make sure that our families, their language is honored, that we respect that, and that we are well-trained to ensure that we are translating and interpreting in ways that they will understand and be able to be fully engaged. I am calling up, who am I calling? Am I calling Pat Roach for this? I'm calling Marissa and, yes, Marissa McCarthy?
Wrote the grant, but he wasn't able to be here tonight.
Wonderful, thank you, Dr. McCarthy.
And translation services. So as Dr. Janal said, this is a great opportunity for us to get in front of training for our interpreters. There is no current mandate from the Department of Ed to have a certification, but what we are doing here is using this grant funding to make sure all interpreters within the district, in the MLL department, the special ed department, and FACE will be trained with Tier 2 level training at the end of the completion of this grant and using all the funds.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Any questions or comments?
I have a few questions, Mr. Mayor. So,
Please.
so the individuals that are going to be trained, they're already current staff?
They're current interpreters, yes.
They're current interpreters, okay, not someone who's a para or a teacher and is going to be expected to interpret?
No, they're
Okay.
current, their current role within the district. They're either district employees or contracted interpreters that work with the district, but their role within the district right now is interpreting.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Is that Ms. Hurst?
Yes,
Any-
yes, Mr. Mayor.
Discretion, please.
Mr. Mayor. So do you know how many?
29.
29?
There'll be 29 interpreters who will be trained. Our 29 interpreters provide interpretation. We have over 50 languages spoke within the district that we provide interpretation and translation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gresham. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
I move to approve expenditure of $35,000 from Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the FY 2025 Interpreter and Education Training Grant.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. There's second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Collins. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you very much. E is to approve an expenditure of $373,486 and pat 11 cents from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, for the FY 2025 Intensive Assistance Grant, IAG. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that 11 cents matters, and we appreciate the work of our finance team. This grant is going to go a long way to help us transform our middle schools. South End Middle School is a great middle school with 2 amazing leaders and a strong team, and we want to make sure that this IAG supports the efforts that they have rolled out this year. I had the pleasure of visiting the school on the first day of school. Learning began on the first day. Strong leadership was evident in the building, and I know that South End Middle School is going to have an amazing school year. These funds will support the work of the staff as well as support the growth, the academic growth, and the social-emotional development of the students there. I asked Dr. Bolsch, Principal Gonzalez, and Dr. Johnson to join the podium and speak further on this opportunity.
Good evening, committee members, Superintendent Denal, Mayor Sarno. Last year, we had the opportunity to apply for DESE's Intensive Assistance Grant. We worked with the SSOS team, we worked with the academic team and Dr. Balt, and we really dug deep into classroom instruction. We looked at our data and identified areas of focus to help us support our students be better prepared when they go to high school. Through this planning process, we developed a plan that was comprehensive, and DESE has funded us, and we are excited for the opportunity to support student academic growth, specifically around literacy. We know how important literacy development is, and being an older struggling reader is something that we know can impact student performance as they go to high school and in post-secondary opportunities. So we are excited to have this opportunity to support not only our students, but also our educators in growing their practice so that they can help our 6th to 8th graders really go on to high school and be prepared to take on the challenges that they will encounter when they get to 9th grade and beyond, and hopefully college and career as they move forward with their lives.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you all for the presentation. Principal Gonzalez, for your leadership at South End Middle School. I move to approve the expenditure of $373,486.11 from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for the FY 2025 Intensive Assistance Grant.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Hurst. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy? Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, the matter passes. Thank you, Chair. F is to approve the FY25 amended budget per attached schedule. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I call to the microphone our Chief Financial and Operations Officer, none other than Mr. Patrick A. Roach, that balances our budget to the penny.
Pat.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is an annual housekeeping item. When we pass the school committee's budget every year, the city's budget gets passed after that, and the state budget gets passed after that. So what we do each and every year is we clean up kind of the line items once we know what the state budget is. So we have some adjustments. It's about a $2.6 million adjustment overall. There's no impact to services. We moved a few line items around, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
I move to approve the FY 2025 amended budget per the attached schedule.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Attorney Murphy. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I have
Oh,
a question,
sure.
Mr. Gonzalez.
He's quick.
Long, right?
That's right. But again, motion is by
I have
Gonzalez,
one-
seconded by Attorney Murphy.
I have one question regarding the charter tuition, and it's under increase. What was it before, Pat?
Charter tuition is about $80 million this year. So this is an increase. What the state does when they release the governor's budget, it's based on the number of students in charter schools at that time, and then they have updated numbers when they do the final budget. The state didn't pass their budget until later in July.
It goes up. Yeah.
So it didn't go up 913. That is the total.
No, it went up.
It went up. Yep.
The expense increased 900.
Yeah.
So the charter tuition that we're paying is $913,000?
It's $80 million.
80.
It's around 80.
So it went up 913,000, so almost $1 million.
Yes.
Do we know how many students we have who are out of the district that we're paying? How many students equate to that?
Happy to get you an exact number, but I think it's about 4,500 between charter and school choice.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Mr.
Pat, did you say 4,500?
Yes.
And that's not inclusive of anyone who is in any sort of day schools, or that's just strictly charter?
Charter schools, I think, is about 3,200, 3,600, somewhere around there. And then the rest is, there's about 800, 900 students in school choice who go to East Longmeadow,
Yeah.
and the towns around. We kind of group them together when they come from the state like that.
Okay, so this charter tuition number includes like Metco, school choice, out-of-district placements?
This is actually just charter school. This is a $913,000 increase to the charter school line item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Collins?
this item, along with the previous two, did go through Budget and Finance. We didn't get a chance to say that, and got unanimous approval to recommend to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Any other questions or comments? Okay, motion has been made by Vice Chair Gonzalez, seconded by Attorney Peter Murphy. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, this matter passes. Thank you. G is to approve the confidential senior executive assistant to superintendent of schools position. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I call to the microphone Interim Chief of Human Resources, Valerie Williams.
See Valerie on TV? It's great. She says, come work for us. I love it. Every time I see her, I say that.
Good evening. In front of you, you have a job description for the confidential senior executive assistant to the superintendent of schools posting. We worked in subcommittee to get the posting just right so that we can post with your approval.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, Director Williams, any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Chair Gonzalez, let me make book on what he's going to do.
I move to approve the confidential senior executive assistant to the superintendent of schools position.
Thank you. Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote is required.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
What's
Hurst.
going on here tonight? Okay, so I have a question as to why is the change in how they report as a result of the previous legislative and contracts subcommittee meeting that we had in the spring? Because I noticed that one is reporting directly to the school committee and the other reports directly to the superintendent of schools.
Yes.
Right, this was as a result, way back in the budget, when we had discussions, and then we had Budget and Finance and Legislative and Contracts Committee, where it was the committee's desire to have one secretary answer directly to the school committee, and one answer directly to the superintendent. But they do work together a little bit, so there's some language in there to allow them to collaborate.
And so the executive assistant is going to report directly to the vice chair? It says, current committee reports directly to the Springfield School Committee and is under the supervision of the vice chair?
Well, we're on G,
We're in the wrong one.
Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't gotten to that one.
we're on.
Okay.
That's to Dr. Denal. Okay.
I have no further questions on that.
That's,
I'll
all
reserve.
right, so, again, Vice Chair Gonzalez has made the motion. I think we did have a second. Didn't we have a second?
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham seconded it, so roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passed. H now is to approve the Executive Confidential Assistant to the School Committee position. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I defer to Interim Chief of Human Resources, Valerie Williams.
Ms. Williams?
In front of you, you have the job posting for the Executive Confidential Assistant to the School Committee position.
So now I can ask my question.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Before Josiah says, so, yeah. Ms. Hurst?
So this is a bit new, and I understand it all sort of stemmed out of what occurred last spring. So this individual is going to report to the vice chair, or is going to be supervised by the vice chair? Is that how I'm reading it?
You have to have some language in there for who's the conduit to the committee. Obviously, this is our secretary for all of us. But nobody answers to 7 people. You need to have a conduit, so the vice chair is a logical person for them to have interaction back and forth. Doesn't mean that we can't go to the secretary and ask for something.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that at all. I just wanted to be clear that it was the vice chair, or I wanted to have a better understanding of that. And so when this gets posted, so are we the hiring committee?
Yes.
Okay, and so this is going to get posted by way of our HR department.
Yes.
And then we are going to interview and ultimately be the hiring body?
We'll have to get together and decide whether we want a subcommittee of it, the whole committee to do it. But yeah, it's ultimately the school committee's hire. So we haven't discussed the logistics of how we'll do those interviews. We would need to do that prior to interviews, though, I agree.
And this is going through which subcommittee?
Pardon me?
This goes through which subcommittee?
This was a joint.
It went through both legislative contracts, and it went through Budget and Finance.
Yeah, because creating a new position on that, so the vice chair. Any other question? Yes, Ms. Gresham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Has it been posted yet? Do we know when we're posting it?
It hasn't been posted.
No, we have to okay it.
Once we approve it.
Once we okay it, yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Hurst?
Then
I have a
make
question.
motion that-
I have a question. One of the questions that came up in the subcommittee meeting was around the compensation and whether or not we're required to post what the compensation would be due to the new fair labor laws and stuff like that. Will that be something that would be posted with this, or are we not yet required to do that?
We're required to do it July 31st, 2025.
Okay. And the second question that I had is, with both positions, if someone is acting in the role and would like to do one or the other, they would then apply, and I'm saying that very simply because we have Teresa operating in 2 positions right now. And if she decided to apply for either or, then how does that work?
When is eligible to apply?
Anybody is eligible to apply for it, and then we would be able to take into consideration somebody already doing it, having a historical, I'm trying to find the right word to be politically correct.
All qualified applicants can be interviewed.
Okay, all right. And then I guess my other part of the question is that this particular position is reporting to the school committee directly, which is something that we have never done before, at least as far as I know. And I guess my concern is to the reality that both individuals will be working in the suite with the superintendent. Will the superintendent be allowed to weigh in on either of these roles, specifically this one that doesn't report directly to her?
Superintendent.
Could you repeat that, please?
For this position, it says that the vice chair will oversee this role or be the direct supervisor, which is very difficult if the person is not working every day in the office and doesn't know that whole chain of command. Like, there's a whole level of confusion I'm already foreseeing by having someone who is working a full-time job having to oversee somebody who's working in a different space and they don't know what they're doing. So what I guess I'm getting to as I'm thinking this through and brainstorming at the same time is, can we somehow wordsmith this to where there is some way in or some type of supervisory oversight, something from the superintendent who has to be sitting right there, because I think this, to me, is a recipe for disaster. I know why you did it, because this is what we asked for, but now that I'm reading it on paper, I'm like, this is not going to be good. I can picture Mr. Gonzalez doing a doctorate and working full-time and having a family and church life, and he's not going to be thinking about, did the person go to job on time and leave on time or do this or that or whatever. So how we can figure out how to make that a little bit more clear before we actually post and don't have somebody coming in with confusion.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? Is my brain venting working here?
Yes, it makes perfect sense, but I just want to accentuate the fact that we will be in full collaboration with the chair as well as the vice chair to ensure that we are providing the type of supervision that is in alignment with the school committee's wishes.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, the reason that we, unless were you going to make a motion, or did you have a point to make?
No, I was going to make a comment, but go.
Okay.
Floor.
On the second page, there's a bullet in both of them that you'll notice is the same, that we didn't, that it wasn't there originally when it was written, but we put it in there, was to coordinate with the executive confidential assistant to the school committee is in one, and the other one says coordinate and confidential executive assistant to the superintendent. We know they have to work collaboratively and they share work.
There's got to be.
So we put that language in there intentionally, knowing that there's going to, it was, when Patty was here, Terry and Patty definitely worked together and collaborated with stuff. We wanted that same thing. That's why we put similar language into both jobs. It wasn't there originally.
I understand that piece, but that's not a hierarchical position or authority. So even if they work together, unless we say that the executive assistant has some type of responsibility or supervisor aspect or give that to the superintendent, we're not really being clear as to who they report to, who evaluates them, who holds them accountable to do whatever they're supposed to do. And I just want to make sure it's not giving and I'm making an assumption here, Ms. Teresa and Dr. Denal being in that space, that this new person comes in and they don't know who they're being held accountable by. That can just be difficult for a person. I'm not saying somebody's going to come in with the intent of being egregious or anything like that, but the reality is that if there's no accountability or if there's no one that they can foresee as having that authority, then it can cause miscommunication and a lot of other things in the atmosphere.
So before I go to Vice Chair Gonzalez, I mean, you could retract the position too and stay as we are and do it that way. But I don't, think someone, he or she would come in with, as you said, that intent, but if there was, I mean, she's the boss. It's her school system with our guidance here, and you don't want to have any type of mixed messages on it, so there has to be either synergy or, I mean, the school committee voted in favor of this. I wasn't too keen on it, seeing what you said, that there could be a potential conflict to superintendent and with the school committee. But if we can tighten the language, or if it's retracted and say there's no need for the position, the expenditure, but I'll leave that up to the school committee. Vice Chair Gonzalez had.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we develop policy or positions as a body of the Springfield Public Schools, I always like to do so thinking forward, setting ourselves aside. So while I do appreciate, Ms. Naylor, your consideration for myself and also for Dr. Denal, I think about the future of the institution. And thinking about the future of the institution, I think that it's important that we have a separate office like we're trying to establish here due to any potential conflicts or having to deal with situations as a body that we may need to deal with, how we've had in the past. And that's why I think the legal counsel piece and also this piece here of a senior executive assistant to the school committee, I think that it's critical. Just to give you an example is, we're charged by the Mass General Law that our job is to hire, evaluate, and if need be, not talking about you, Dr. Denal, but any superintendent in the Commonwealth, is also to deal with any disciplinary matters or any termination matters of any superintendent. Now, how strange would it be, given what we've had in the past, if I would tell a secretary that reports to the superintendent, I need you to draft this letter and get this ready for me because we're going to deal with X in an executive committee meeting. I think that's why it's important to have it separate. And I think some of the details that we're worried about the individual, that's why we need a certain caliber of individual and professional that's going to work in collaboration with Dr. Denal, our current superintendent, future superintendents, and the current executive assistant to that body. But I think there's importance here to have that separation. I really want to stand on that.
May I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So I see both points, and I think that because it's no secret, because of what we had encountered last spring, that it was clear that we needed to be able to separate the assistants and who they reported to, more so to make their lives easier, but also so that we could do our good governance. And so I do think that there is an opportunity here for us to think about how do we create this position and this office. But I also understand what Ms. Monroe Naylor is saying is that it could sound one way in theory and be really different in actual application. And so I do think that we have to spend some time to think about, like, how do we tighten up the language, but also, I mean, we have an association. I always go back to MASC. What do other postings look like? What have other school committees done or districts? And I also think when I was looking at this, these are all great things that need to happen. But there also needs to be a level of training that's going to have to happen, and it can't just solely fall on the current executive assistant to provide that, but that it also should be including that they have some training that happens by way of the arm of the Mass Association of School Committees that trains the executive assistants to the school committees. So, I mean, I just think that I don't know if this was done in collaboration with MASC or any other body, such as the National School Boards Association. I do think that this is a position that is needed, and I just think we need to figure out how to tighten up the language and tighten it up so that we can't just plan for Mr. Gonzalez, because he might not always be the vice chair. So this person has to have a level of of flexibility and know that their potential supervisor is going to change from time to time. And that there is, I mean, I don't know if there's a dotted line to the superintendent, but there's got to be, I think there needs to be a little more thought that goes into how we actually execute and implement this. I do think we should do it. I just think we have to, and we're going to have to monitor it and really be paying attention to like what's working and what's not working, and give ourselves enough flexibility to pivot if we need to, and how.
May I ask another question? Oh, go ahead, Mrs. Gresham.
I was just going to say, if we could table it and get some direction from MASC, and all of us be present. I know we all have the opportunity to go to the subcommittee meetings, but I think we all need to be present when we're making this decision.
Is that in the form of a motion?
May I ask one question though before we make the motion, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, yeah.
Mrs. Williams, is there a plan B that we can have in place temporarily? Because one of the concerns I do have, I understand why we need to kind of move with this, because the reality is that we have an individual doing 2, maybe 3 jobs. So my concern is that, is there a way for us to still provide added support so that we are not having somebody do 2 or 3 jobs temporarily until we figure out exactly what this position needs to look like, so that we are not hiring somebody and setting them up for failure on a long-term basis?
I have to work on a plan with you, but I think we can make it happen.
That would be, if I could amend slightly what Mrs. Gresham said, to yes, table, but we do need to do some type of authorization to provide Mrs. Williams and superintendent to at least put somebody in place temporarily to assist Teresa, because I think, and Terry, I only say your first name because I cannot say your last name, and I don't want to mess it up. But for us to help Ms. Teresa, because I am concerned when we start to pile things on. People do a wonderful job, and they don't deserve to be overwhelmed because we can't move in a timely fashion. And respectably, I understand why.
So Ms. Gresham made a motion as a friendly amendment there. Is there a second? I know there's more discussion. Is there a second on that?
Mr.
I'll second if we can have discussion right after.
Yeah. So second motion and friendly amendment made by Ms. Naylor to Ms. Gresham's.
Well, she's making a motion to table this, not
Table it. Then we have a friendly amendment seconded by Mr. Collins. And Vice Chair Gonzalez wants to comment.
Yeah, my only concern, just echoing what, the last speaker brought up, Ms. Naylor, is that the current secretary, is taking on both of the roles that was traditionally covered by 2 FTEs. So, I understand that we want to have further conversation about how this is going to work and a flow chart, org chart, but I stand that we should still post the job and give Ms. Williams authority to go forward and post this job, because the reality is, by the time you get folks to apply to the job, interview folks for the job while we figure out the functionality that they're going to be doing, it's probably going to take us, even if we move quick, 4 to 8 weeks. So by tabling it, we're going to probably send it back to a subcommittee. This is just, again, folks, this is just the job description. We're going to send it back to subcommittee, bring it back to full committee, bring it back for a vote in full committee just to post it, rather than tonight post the job in subcommittee simultaneously. Let's work out some of these details, so that way I think we give the liberty to whoever would like to apply for either positions, you post them at the same time. Because currently, the current secretary is sitting in this dual role, but, we don't know the current secretary. It's their prerogative or anyone's prerogative to go apply for the current position before this item that we just approved. So we may end up in a situation where we don't have a clerk or a secretary that reports to the body to do a lot of the clerical and confidential things that we need. So again, my position would be that we move forward with the job description as it stands, and that a particular subcommittee or an ad hoc, we can figure out a lot of those other details. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Gonzalez. There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Gresham. She's accepted the friendly amendment of Ms. Naylor, seconded by Mr. Collins. Ms. Hurst on the motion?
I was going to allow Pete.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I tend to agree with Mr. Gonzalez that we should post this, give Ms. Williams an opportunity to see what's out there, get the ball rolling, because I think he's absolutely right. It's going to take a long time to go to subcommittee, come back, do a search, post the jobs at different times. It doesn't, it seems a little, I think we should just, I'm not gonna vote for the motion to table.
Yeah. Thank you, Attorney Murphy. On the, Ms. Hurst?
So I understand the long timeline. I get it. And I don't want that to happen for all of the reasons that Ms. Monroe-Naylor just stated. Mrs. Williams, how long does a posting typically stay up?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And then you're going to screen based off of the job experience requirements, and then those apps, right, that pass the screening will get turned over to a committee?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm comfortable with posting it so that we're not being held up and doing that. I just think we have to be really clear about what the expectations are before this person lands.
Right.
But the, just on that, on the motion, I think what Ms. Gresham and Ms. Naylor are putting forth, that's what they want in there to tweak it, so it's clear expectation. I'm looking at Director Williams now. You put it out, well, we didn't really mean that when we put it out. This is what we really want you to be able to do. So that I'm just clarifying if it's not tweaked on it, but I will go to Mr. Collins now. Again, there's a motion on the floor. It has been properly seconded, and we can vote it up or vote it down. But Mr. Collins, you had a comment, please?
Thank you. Listening to all the points that were made, Mrs. Hurst made some great points about MASC, and
Yes.
I think we're going to find MASC language is going to deal with, it wouldn't necessarily highlight vice chair, it would highlight chair. Having a strong mayor form of government, we may not decide to go that way, but we should look at all of that. I support Mrs. Gresham and Mrs. Naylor in saying that we should table it. You never want to post a job and have somebody apply for a job that's not the job that it's going to be. You want people to know exactly what it is that they are applying for. So if this could change after you've posted it, that's almost like a bait and switch. The poor people who apply they don't know what they're applying for. I trust Mrs. Williams that she says that she will find a way to get some support from Mrs. Montemayor, who is doing a yeoman's work and can't continue do it on her own. The one danger about waiting is we do need to get support. If you say that can happen, then I would be fully in support of us tabling and getting the language more tightly aligned before we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. And again, my style has always been with the superintendents is that they're the experts. So I always confer with the superintendent when decisions have to be rendered. Now with Madam Superintendent Dr. Denault, you're the experts. And we talked about a couple issues last few days and last week too. How do you feel on a certain situation? So, okay, so with that, there's been a motion on the floor from Ms. Gresham. Madam
Just a point of order.
Yeah.
You accepted,
She's accepting the friendly.
you made a motion to table. Mrs. Naylor said with the proviso that we get some support from Mrs. Montemayor. You accepted that as a friendly amendment?
Yes, as long as we
Yeah.
have to table it.
All right.
And
So then we don't, the only reason I'm saying, we don't need two votes. If Barbara accepted that as a
Right.
friendly amendment to her,
To my,
then we only have to vote once. We vote on your motion to table.
And I think what Ms. Hurst said too about the Mass School Association of School Committees and that'll be looked into too, I would assume, and table it.
I just want to clean it up so we don't confuse. We only need to vote
Okay.
once. The motion to table.
And as, again, what Ms. Hurst said about utilizing the expertise of the Mass Association of School Committees and their national school committees, which, okay, so.
But Mr. Mayor, can I
Yeah,
just say something
sure,
really
yeah.
quickly? But I want to be clear. I don't necessarily have a problem with the functions of the job. I think that the issue was how that person, the line to whom that person supervises, and then how that relationship interfaces with the current superintendent and her executive assistant. Is that what we're trying to get some clarity on?
Yes, absolutely, Mrs. Hurst. And
So I was just gonna say, I understand what Chris is saying, right? You don't want to put something out there and then the person be like, that's not what I applied for. And I think even more importantly, the person wants to know who they're reporting to. I think that is pretty critical. Somebody wants to know who they're reporting to. And so I think that that is where we need more clarification in the brief job description. I'll also just say really quickly, does our current and or previous assistants, did they also maintain and update the school committee website and other digital platforms on behalf of the school committee? Yeah?
Yeah.
You do? Oh,
you did.
I didn't realize that. Okay, fantastic. All right.
And with the you also have the assistance with Azelle and her team, too, on it.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor, and it's been a motion made by Ms. Gresham and seconded by Mr. Collins. Roll call vote is required. And to clarify, if you vote for the motion, we're going to temporarily table this, just to clarify it. If you vote against the motion, that means to post the position immediately. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
It's been Naylor.
this is the part where I always get confused.
Yeah.
If I'm saying yes,
You're voting yes to
Yes
table.
on the motion.
okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
No.
Mr. Gonzalez?
No.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passed. Thank you very much. And I think, Dr. Mill, did you want to say something?
I did. I just wanted to publicly thank Mrs. Montemayor for all that she has done since I arrived. Prior to my arrival, she has been holding down 2 positions. She has never complained. She is also doing an excellent job keeping me on schedule, helping me to navigate this new role. You have been such a support to me, and I really appreciate you, and I thank you publicly.
I know I ask a lot of her too, so thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank-
must have called like 10 times.
We'll move to I now, approve the Springfield Public Schools Legal Counsel. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I actually will invite Mrs. Katie O'Sullivan to join Ms. Williams on policy AC.
Oh, this.
No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, this is legal counsel.
For legal counsel, approve the Springfield Public Schools Legal Counsel.
Oh, I thought that was going to be it.
No, the in-house legal counsel.
Oh, that one. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. Still, Interim Chief Valerie Williams, okay.
You're still on the spot now.
Before you have a job posting for the Springfield Public Schools Legal Counsel, that will be the in-house legal counsel for the district.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
I move to approve the Springfield Public Schools Legal Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Attorney Murphy, and I'd like to thank Attorney Melinda Phelps for all her years of dedicated service. She gave great wisdom and advice and legal counsel to this superintendent and the school committee, and that bittersweet. We wish her continued success in her new endeavors, and she will be missed. Ms. Hurst?
Mr. Mayor, so I think I have just a couple questions.
Sure.
So we're going to have our school legal counsel, and then we're going under information item A, we're going to discuss school committee legal counsel. Do we continue to have any outside legal counsel? We have additional outside legal counsel.
Yes.
In addition to our in-person legal counsel. and we're going to have school committee legal counsel.
You're looking at me, so I'll answer.
I didn't mean to look at you, the light shining.
We
right?
currently have a contract with Bulkley Richardson for some ongoing cases. So yes, there is, that's an hourly type arrangement where when we need them or the cases that they're currently working. Whether that will be necessary once we have the current in-house and we have our own, chances are there might be an occasion where you'd need a specialty attorney, where in most people who are versed in the matters of school committee, attorneys that have that specialty may not have the specialty you need on a particular case. So I don't say it would permanently eliminate the need to maybe go outside, but that would be in the budget. We've already got money in the budget for that anyway, and that would be that we would approve on each year as we need it, and they would go out, special ed matters or things like that, where you need a specialized attorney. So we won't just have two we have the potential we may use others as well.
Okay. That's my next question was going to be about the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, there's a motion on the floor.
There was already.
Yes.
Say again, is there a motion on the
There
floor?
was already a motion.
Oh, he made the
Okay.
motion, and Peter seconded it.
Who seconded?
I did.
Peter seconded
I
it.
didn't hear the, okay, my fault on that. Okay, I didn't hear, we had discussion. So, there's a motion, and there's a second. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, warrant sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. J is to approve the AC policy. This is the first vote. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. So this policy will be further explained by Valerie Williams and Katie O'Sullivan.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, thank you.
Currently, we are in Title I district, and we have to adhere to their requirements that when we take the Title I funding, we have to adhere to different requirements, and one of those such requirements are Title IX. Title IX has changed in 2024, so what you see in front of you is the Title I AC, the non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation. As part of the Title I school, or Title I district rather, we have to post the policies on our website, and all this had to be done in draft form because it had to be posted by August the 1st of 2021, and if it wasn't, our district would be not in compliance for Title I. So what you have in front of you is the AC, is the non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation of Title IX.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
I just want to note that these items, again, they went through Chairman Collins and Chairwoman Naylor's joint committee, and it was pretty standard language that was recommended here. So I move to approve policy AC.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Naylor. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, warrant sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. K is to approve the ACA policy, and this is a first vote. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. As was the case with Policy AC, Policy ACA was also researched, refined, and developed by the HR team in collaboration with Attorney Phelps. Katie O'Sullivan and Valerie Williams will explain further.
Thank you.
The AC policy of Title IX is the non-discrimination on the basis of sex. Once again, these are policies that had to be adhered to the new policy of 2024, and so all of the policy included is updated and in alliance with, or in alignment with Title IX policies.
Mr. Mayor?
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
I move to approve policy ACA.
Motion made by Vice Chair Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gresham. Roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something really
Sure.
quickly?
Ms. Naylor was seconded by Ms. Gresham.
We talked about this policy change heavily in our Leadership Institute at the MASC over the summer, talking about Title IX and the various differences. And I would like it if we could have Katie just explain one key thing about the change that is really, I think, monumental, so that folks are aware of that piece.
Thank you. Ms. O'Sullivan?
Yes. What we're looking at with the major change, as we discussed it in subcommittee, is that this is sex-based harassment. It is no longer of the 2020 regulations where it was just sexual harassment. This is protecting gender identity, sexual stereotypes, sexual characteristics of our staff and our students.
Thank you, Ms. O'Sullivan. Thanks for clarification. Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Naylor. Okay, there's been a motion and there's been a second. Roll call. No other discussion. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient votes, matter passes. Thank you. Thank you, Director Williams. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Ms. O'Sullivan. L is to approve the student assignment policy. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to call to the microphone Chief Financial and Operations Officer Patrick Roach to help us understand what the student assignment policy is.
Thank you, Patrick. Don't forget that 11 cents either.
So the student assignment policy was something that we had brought to committee, and what the request was changing the current student assignment policy, the school choice policy that was, it's currently K-8. If a student wants to school choice into Springfield, you only allow them in from kindergarten to 8th grade, and the amendment to the policy was to go up to 12th grade. Our high school enrollment's down in the district, and so it was an opportunity to potentially fill some of the empty.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a comment. First of all, I would like to ask that this be tabled and brought back to subcommittee. It was voted down in subcommittee, and when I voted it down, I gave some really distinct reasons as to why I did not agree with the policy, so I'm surprised that it is listed as a voting item and not at least an informational or discussion for us to share with the rest of the body as to why it was voted down. So I would like to ask for us to bring it back to subcommittee where all folks in the subcommittee can be there. It was just myself and Mr. Collins on that day, and then if any of the other members would like to be present at the subcommittee, they are more than welcome to come, and/or we can bring it up as an informational item. But I do think that we do not want to set a precedent that if something is voted down in subcommittee, we can just bring it back by a request in new business to then put it on as a voting item.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor.
Just a point of clarification, Mayor. It was in subcommittee before. It didn't get voted down. It never got, there was a motion to approve it. There was no second, so it couldn't be acted on. I made the motion at the last school committee meeting, since we couldn't get it out of subcommittee because we couldn't take the action, that it be put on this agenda, as we're supposed to do under new business, for the full committee to discuss and make the decision on it, since the subcommittee wasn't able to take any action. So I followed the process, which says any one of us at a meeting under new business can say, I'd like this added to the next agenda. That's how it's on the, how it got on the agenda, because we actually followed the process. I don't have a problem with us approving it. I don't know. I'm sure as long as we know that nobody who's on a waiting list would get displaced for somebody coming from the outside.
No, the policy says there needs to be 95% capacity. So if it's over 95%, you're not allowed to take students in school choice.
So any school that has a waiting list
You wouldn't be able to.
would not be at under 95% capacity, because if they were, they would, okay, I see that. So any school that has a waiting list, this would not affect.
Correct.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Yes, Ms.
I have lots of questions and comments. So the first question I have is, does it come under by Robert's Rules of Order, Mr. Collins, does it come back to the agenda as a voting item, or does it come under unfinished business or new business? Or
Under our rules, anyone of us can make a request that something get put on as a voting item, and that was the request I made last year at our last school committee.
I remember that. I just didn't know that it would come back as a voting item. It doesn't.
It all depends upon how somebody requested. I requested it, that it come to us as a voting item since we weren't able to take action in the subcommittee.
And so doesn't it not getting a first or a second mean that there was action, that it just didn't get it? That
No, there was a motion made and no second, so there wasn't a motion.
So it didn't die, it didn't fail, isn't that?
It didn't fail, it just
died.
Yeah, it just died. It was pigeonholed, so to speak.
And so I feel like, I guess I would see that as it failed. Or is that not how Robert's rules?
Well, there wasn't a vote on a motion because the motion has to have a second in order for there to be a vote, and there was no second.
Okay.
And when you only have 3 on a subcommittee, and if one's not there, that can happen.
So if this were to come back to the subcommittee, it would be my request that we have a slew of information that accompanies it. I do, and will state publicly for the record, have a problem with this. And I stated it at the last school committee meeting in June because I wasn't able to be at that meeting. My issue is that we cannot have other students coming from other surrounding districts taking slots from kids who have been here their entire lives and hoping and wishing that they are going to get into a particular high school and they get bumped by somebody else. We know that it happens. We know that it occurs. And so I'd like to know, how much vacancy do we have? How much money do we stand to gain, right, to increase it to 12th grade? If we're going to open up school choice to 12th grade, what are the high schools that have the lowest enrollments, and where are our kids on wait lists? And I'll name it, for the Putnams and the Centrals.
Yeah.
Because our Putnam and Central, the kids who are sitting on Putnam and Central wait list need to go in way before somebody from an outlying district comes in. That is my main concern. I can't tell you how many times I get stopped in the city or in the community with, I need my kid to go to Putnam because my town doesn't offer a vocational school. I need my kid to go to Central because your football team is amazing. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. So those kids that are coming from outlying districts need to be going to the high schools that have the most vacancy. The most vacancy is very similar to what's happening with residency. You want our jobs in our schools, but you don't want to live here. Absolutely not. I won't go for it. I want a slew of information before we even try to pass this.
Thank you, Ms. Hurst. I have to now, now I recall that meeting, and I felt the same way. You know, we got to take care of our own kids first. And she brought the point, got a lot of great schools, but let's face it, top-notch Putnam Vocational Technical Academy, not only in the state and the country, they're going to want to go there. Central's built a hell of a reputation with their academics and athletics. Now they're going to want to go there, and I, you know, for me, the families and stuff that have stayed here, they need first priority. So maybe it might be wise to bring it back to subcommittee, maybe iron some things out if there's other high schools that people consider, and you said the 95% is the key there. Maybe fine, maybe we look at.
What's the data before we even vote on
But I can't see turning one of our own kids saying they're going to get bumped from somebody from the outside. You know, now I recall it.
Sorry.
Let me go to Attorney Murphy. Thank you, Denise, for bringing that up. Now I recall exactly, because I felt the same way on that.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr.
You know, we had the same concern. We talked about it last time that, you know, Putnam, everybody wants to go to Putnam, right? Everybody wants to go to Central. Unfortunately, not everybody can go, so there are kids that are from Springfield on wait lists. And it really is a product, I think, of a dearth of vocational education in this region. It's not just a Springfield problem, it's a regional problem. And, it's not going to be resolved. But I was under the impression that that issue was not going to be an issue because kids from the outer belt, or whatever you want to call it, are not the outer belt, 16 acres, I mean out of the district. They would not get into Putnam because there's a waiting list, right? And they wouldn't get into Central because there's a waiting list. So that would leave basically Commerce and Sci-Tech if there's no waiting list at Sci-Tech, right?
It's
Is Mike right about
95% capacity historically. So Putnam has a wait list. Historically, Central's had a wait list. Sci-Tech and Commerce have not had wait lists, and I think Renaissance switches year to year. This year, Duggan has a wait list.
Right.
So it's 95% capacity is what's in the school committee policy.
All right, so it's not if there's
And the wait list goes first.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
So are we saying that those who would take advantage of school choice would immediately go to a Commerce and/or a Sci-Tech? Those are their two options?
Whatever schools are under 95% capacity. So at the middle and elementary level, there's schools that are above it and schools that are below it. So right now, kids can come in middle and elementary. In high school, we've never allowed kids to come in during high school.
So, but what I'm asking is, this is asking us to increase it to 12th grade.
Yep.
So, right now, Central and Putnam are at 95% occupancy.
I know Putnam is. I'm not sure about Central.
But they both have waiting list.
I know Putnam does. I'm not sure about Central.
Okay, so does that mean that we know that that Commerce and Sci-Tech do not have wait lists and they have vacancy, that those are the first two options that children who are being choiced in would get?
They would definitely get Commerce and Sci-Tech as options, but whether Renaissance, a specific grade at Duggan might be under 95, like a specific grade might be under 95, or Central.
So Central would be a part of.
I don't have data in front of me. I apologize. I'm happy to bring it to a subcommittee.
And when you bring that data to the subcommittee, could you also tell us how many students are currently taking advantage of K through 8?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. And, we are, you have Putnam, Central. Duggan has moved up on the people want to be going to Duggan. Great job's been done there. Renaissance says that's another one. Not to slight my alma mater, or a Sci-Tech has done a great job. So I think there's a lot of questions here, and with all due respect to the subcommittee, I just hate to see one of our own kids get. Let's face it. Putnam, as Attorney Murphy indicated, vocational education is hot, very hot right now. Putnam's top notch. And let's face it with Central, besides the academics, people see a pipeline through football. We got a lot of our kids now going to top-notch D1 schools who could go even further. I hate to have somebody from the outside come in and say, my kid's going to Central because I'm football academics, and then one of our own kids gets knocked out of the box. So I think we got to get some questions answered here, and maybe it should go back to the indulgence of the school committee, go back to the subcommittee, and then I'll go to Vice Chair Gonzalez and maybe Superintendent, and she's just taken over now, and I'm sure she might have some thoughts on this too. Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the sentiments that my colleagues brought forth this evening as it relates to the student assignment policy, and I'd offer a second that we table or send it back to a committee per Ms. Naylor's motion. I firmly believe from a big picture that folks that want to send their children to Springfield public schools but don't live here, I have an issue with that in terms of commitment. So you want to send your kids here, but you're not committed to our city because you want the sports and you want the AP offerings that we have in the vocational programs, but you're not committed to our Springfield community in terms of, paying your taxes, being a part of a neighborhood or a neighborhood council. I don't see how I could support this. I mean, I'm certainly would love to hear the data that Ms. Hurst has requested from you, Mr. Roach, and that we bring it back to committee. But I think we need folks that are committed to our city families, that are committed to living here, sending their kids here, but to sit out in all of the hill towns and say, I want to send my kid over there because I want them to go play sports so they can make it to a D1 school, but I don't want to live here. So I have an issue with that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. So there has been a motion.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Collins, yeah.
I am not going to object to it going back to committee. I think the reason I put it on is we needed some discussion on it. It got none. I think we will determine that when it goes back to committee that anybody who's got a waiting list, they're going to be fine. I know there are anecdotal things out there where people might walk up to you on the street, oh, my kid got bumped, or some kid from outside the city got this, and I don't take those as truth unless you can verify. Unfortunately, that happens in political life way too often, and it doesn't turn out to be true. I'm okay with it going to subcommittee. We get a lot of that information back. This got what I wanted. It got some discussion on the issue. We didn't get any discussion on it. If it could be done in a way where none of the children who live in Springfield are hurt, I'm going to be for it. If it turns out that there's any chance that one of our students could get a negative reaction to it, then I'll be against it. So I'm fine with it going back to committee and get all the answers that we need.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something, please? There was a discussion in the meeting, and I said that I was not going to vote to support it because I remembered sitting in this same room, in this same seat, with one of the parents sitting at that podium who said to us that her child was at Zanetti School and her child was on wait list. And when we did the data and the digging and the investigation, we found out that her child was on wait list because there were several individuals who had their kids at Zanetti in that same grade who did not live in this city. So we can say theoretically it's not supposed to happen, but we know it does happen because we have factually investigated a few years ago that it did happen in one of our elementary schools. And so if it's going to happen in our elementary schools, I could probably sit here and name to you some of the students right now that are in some of the schools that don't live in the city now, who are using addresses just to be in our schools. So it's really a mess, and I understand it because if people see an opportunity for their kids to get where they need to go, they're going to take whatever advantage they can. But I am not going to do that at the expense of our students who live in this city and their parents who live in this city and have to deal with all the ups and downs and beautiful things that happen in this city to ensure that their kids can have a pathway through Springfield Public Schools. We have done a phenomenal job of making sure that we have some of the best AP programs, the best vocational programs, the best band. We've done that, and nobody should come in this city and have access to that, and they don't live here, and they don't deal with things that we all deal with to stay in this city and love our city and work towards our city. So that is what I said in the meeting, in the subcommittee, and that's what I'll say again, and that's what I'll say in the next subcommittee again, because I adamantly feel that way. But for the sake of following our democratic process, that is why I suggested that we at least table it and bring it back for review so that anyone has additional questions or wants to see data, by all means, whatever the majority vote is, then we just have to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Snell. You know, she brings up good points, and there's another school way, but the other good point here is that we're the first in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to offer universal free preschool. That saves people a lot of money on it. So that's another avenue that people might be able to try to sneak in here and do that. So, but I think might be consensus with the school committee to go back to committee. Motions and seconds have been done. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Is this motion to table?
Well, to go back.
Yes.
Oh, go back, yeah.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote, this matter passes. Thank you very much. We'll now move to informational discussion items. A is school committee legal counsel position. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as I took on the role on July 15th, it was brought to my attention that there was a desire of the school committee to secure their own legal counsel. So in collaboration with the school committee, I know Attorney Phelps, as well as Interim Chief Valerie Williams, went ahead and drafted a position and with roles and responsibilities, and we look forward to this discussion at this time.
Do we want to get any clarification through Director Williams? This is just discussion. We're not looking to post anything here, because I think we get back to what we're talking about, the executive confidential secretary to the superintendent, and then one to the school committee. And then, again, you could have dueling positions here with a school department attorney and then a school committee attorney. So through the superintendent, there's been no type of description or anything like that. This is just discussion for the school committee? Okay.
This item is a discussion item.
Yeah.
Because, which we asked to have in
I didn't know if you had any, just some,
They had proposed a position,
Yeah.
as they were asked to do. The school committee had never finished its discussion on whether we were looking to have a second attorney, whether we were looking to perhaps get a firm to represent the school committee, or which way we wanted to go. That's why this is on as a discussion item. And when you take a look at the math that Mr. Roach put together, looking at the amount of service, it doesn't appear to raise to the level of a full-time position. We may, and everybody should weigh in on, we may be better off looking for a firm that specializes in servicing school committees. If you look at the level of services that Pat gave us there, it comes up to 50,000 or less. I don't have it right. Yes, I do have it in front of me. You're not going to get the kind of attorney to take that job for $50,000, and we don't. But hiring a firm that only has to do, and if you notice, he put a lot of things in there, and we may or may not want all those services. But what we have to do is come to some consensus as a body. Are we looking for a second full-time lawyer, or are we looking to get legal services, whether it be through an RFP or whatever?
Vice Chair Gonzalez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in the subcommittee, I had, affirmed that I agree with this analysis that Mr. Roach brought forward. First under financial stewardship, that if we're to hire, one FT in-house, we're probably going to be looking at around $200,000. We include taxes, fringes, and benefits, versus this analysis that Mr. Roach provided that totals $49,000 at a rough estimate. And even if we were to go, let's say, because we had additional hours or additional assignments for that attorney, and it went, north, let's say, between $50,000 to $100,000, I think we owe it to the folks that elected us here to be good financial stewards, and we don't need someone, to come attend meetings, consult on policy, draft a couple things. I don't see the need to pay, $200,000 if we can retain the services. Not only to mention that trying to find someone that specializes in school-related law with all the expertise that we need, we're probably going to be better off utilizing someone in a firm and retaining their services. So I mentioned this in the subcommittee meeting, and for the public's knowledge and those attending this evening's meeting, that's my position on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. Ms. Hurst?
So I think there's a couple things that stood out to me when looking at this draft versus looking at the one that was just approved. One is that in neither of these positions do I see anything about collective bargaining. And our current or our outgoing counsel was at the bargaining table. So who's going to continue to do that? I know that we have the gentleman out of Worcester.
Attorney
but-
Sweeney, yeah.
Attorney who?
Attorney Sweeney.
Yes, Attorney Sweeney, but Attorney Phelps used to be a part of collective bargaining. She attended those meetings and would brief us when we were in executive session. And then the second thing that stands out to me is, who does this person report to? Very similarly to
Yeah.
how we looked at the executive assistant, it was clear who the person reported to. So while they do report to the full committee, do they have a specific or individual person that they report to?
Again, I want to just clarify, I wasn't, during those discussions, this is not something that I supported. I think you're going to create an inherent conflict. Maybe if, as Mr. Roach indicated, you have on call, say something does come up where you got to have an outside look besides our own attorney that we have. But I wasn't in favor of this because I think that now all of a sudden you have the same body sort of not suing each other, but going after each other. And that's not a good look. But I mean, if there's a compromise, as you said, somebody on call, because I cannot see, I'd rather put the money in the classroom, paying $200,000 or $250,000 for someone he or she to, once in a while, maybe something comes up. And then again, it goes back to the superintendent's leadership, here too, that you have one attorney that's there to help the superintendent and also help guide the school committee too, and then have another attorney come in and say, well, we don't agree with that. It's going to put us, at odds. So I wasn't supportive of, it's the indulgence, but I wasn't supportive of this move at all. But if something has to be done, maybe it's have a firm or someone on call specialized. And the other good point is brought up, collective bargaining, which again gets very sensitive, very emotional at times, and to have conflicting messages going out there where the superintendent and or the school committee stands, or it's a different message, can lead to uncomfortable times. So I'm not going to support it either way, but if there's, I think if it's going to go through, you should probably have maybe a firm on call, but whoever the next chief legal counsel is going to be, he or she, they're going to have to be well-versed and specialized in school committee laws and policies and up on the education reform and other national and state trends. So that means you got to have somebody else if you're going to pick this. It's the same thing. So with that, let me, Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give some context to the public that's perhaps viewing and those present here this evening, why at least I'm in support of separating the legal services for the school committee. Over this past year, there were several instances where, there were conflicts between the superintendent's office and this body, making it nearly impossible for members of this body to pick up the phone and contact this dual legal counsel that reported both to the superintendent and to the school committee. Now, I want the public to think about that. If we needed to pick up the phone and ask a question and say, hey, want to know about this, that the superintendent has done, XYZ, the legality around this policy that they're pushing, and next thing you know, that person is in a conflicted role and says, oh, shoot, that's my boss. Let me go tip them off that the school committee is thinking about XYZ. So we were in a position that we couldn't even, I don't believe that we could, and members can disagree with this, go and ask those things confidentially due to affiliation that was naturally presented, in the way that the organization was set up, the school department was set up. So I think this is critical, not only for those of us sitting here today, but the school committee that may be sitting here 20, 30, 40 years down the road that may need to navigate through some tumultuous waters, they should be able to pick up the phone, contact legal counsel without any worry of that getting out, because that's the purpose, is for us to provide oversight to the chief executive officer and also financial stewardship amongst other functions of the school committee. So again, that's where I stand. That's why I stand on that position.
Thank you, Vice.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Taylor, yes.
So now that we kind of have an understanding, I think, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but I feel like we are probably leaning towards, not just for fiscal reasons, just makes sense for us to be looking at an outside vendor. What are the next steps that we would take? So this will go into subcommittee, I assume. It's going to legislative and contracts. Would it be a joint between budget and finance and legislative and contracts? That we would have this on the agenda?
It would be. I would think that, and I would like to react to something that was said earlier, but I would think we don't want to just throw it into committee and start all over. I think if we're going to, and I'm getting the same feeling you are, that people are leaning towards perhaps looking for a firm that specializes in it, that if that vote happens, that we ask the HR and CAFO to get together and put together an RFP that would, so that we could be a step ahead of the game and not make it delay.
Exactly. So that is definitely where I was going, so that we could expedite it, because we've had several meetings now, subcommittee meetings, as well as public, where we have not had any counsel at all. And tonight was a really good example when we were going over the Roberts rules as to when it would have been very helpful to have legal counsel. As well as our last subcommittee meeting, we ran into a little thing there where we were like, oh, which way are we supposed to handle this? So it is definitely something that we want to make sure we have counsel at our subcommittee meetings, at our public meetings. I think that the MASC has a really good resource of phenomenal firms that specialize in this kind of work. So I feel like we have enough resources to be able to move forward and have them start working on a draft so that we could meet and then kind of review that and start the process expeditiously.
Mayor, could I say something?
Yes, Attorney Murphy, please.
Mr. Collins was next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Peter. You haven't spoken.
All right, so just so I'm on the same page here as everybody else, we just voted on the school committee lawyer, right? We just did that.
That's separate.
That's in-house.
Right.
School department.
We just voted on this job description. I know, this is the one we're discussing now. But we just essentially asked, I believe, Williams to post this position. And so we're going to have a school committee lawyer who's going to attend meetings as.
No, Pete. That person that we just approved is going to work directly with the superintendent. There's a lot of legal things that there's a lot of,
But that's not what it says on the agenda. Informational discussion item says school committee legal counsel position.
Right, there's two different positions. There's two different.
No.
Can I just finish so that we can know what, this reports to the superintendent. The one that we voted on is the school committee attorney who reports to us.
No, we did not vote on that yet. We're on the information one, is the one that reports to us.
Here, because that's what it says on the agenda.
No, you had Murph,
Approved Springfield Public Schools legal counsel.
This one right here.
and that would be to the school department and to the superintendent and to the school committee. This is the separate thing here. This attorney, he or she or firm would report directly to the school committee.
We voted.
So we voted on what Mindy's moving on to another opportunity. So we're voting on what Attorney Phelps' position. We voted on that.
If I could, Mayor. Yeah. So that position that we just voted is not going to attend meetings, right?
No,
and is not going to go to subcommittee meetings. Not going to tell us about Robert's rules and open meeting law violations, et cetera, right? So you guys are saying we need somebody to do that who's separate and reports essentially to us.
No,
that's Mr. Roach's budget that he
Yes,
submitted.
the $49,000 that's in this budget here is what it would cost us to do an outside vendor. That's what we're hoping.
All right.
Rather than hiring somebody for $200,000 and having another FTE.
That makes perfect sense.
But
we also have, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Murph.
Attorney Sweeney
Labor.
does collective bargaining.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that would pretty much cover all areas. Superintendent has her counsel, we have ours, collective bargaining.
So let me just make, the attorney that is going to be selected for the school department and the school committee and superintendent and all, he or she can handle all those questions too. They have to be an expert on that. So we're gonna, in other words, now you're clarifying to me, we're gonna have somebody come here and sit down for whatever, $50,000, $60,000 to, can we get a clarification on Robert's rules when you have an in-house attorney that could tell you that if I'm reading this wrong, that's what's just been said now. So besides the school committee, we won't have our legal counsel here. They'll just be in the school department and the superintendent and maybe the school committee. So we're going to have somebody, I mean, the continuity here. I mean, you're going to have somebody separate
Yes.
to sit here. And maybe tonight we might have had a question on Robert's rules, so somebody here, she's just going to sit here, and maybe there won't even be a question on anything, is going to get paid when we have an in-house attorney, such as we have with Attorney Melinda Phelps, who is well-versed in all these fields and can answer that.
So the two positions were separated out so that the one that you just voted on was for the school department.
Right. Right.
And this one that you're looking at will just be for the school committee.
May I?
Yeah, Ms.
I'm sorry,
Briscoe.
no, I'm sorry, Mr. Collins.
No, you go ahead, Denise.
I was going to say, I mean, so we tried it, right? Because when I first got on this school committee, we had Attorney Melissa Shea, who was outside counsel. And then she was brought in, and we had in-house counsel, and we still were heavily using Bulkley Richardson until Attorney Phelps left there and came back in. We were using Attorney Phelps and Attorney Kennedy, and we had Attorney Melissa Shea. Because Attorney Shea used to sit here when we first got here before she came in-house. So it's not like we've not seen the model before. I think that we need to look at it comprehensively. Like, what are we paying? Well, we know we don't know at this moment what we're going to pay our in-house legal counsel, but what are we also paying our collective bargaining attorney, and what are we going to ultimately pay this other attorney who would primarily be for the school committee? And I'll just add really quickly, I actually agree with you, Vice Chairman Gonzalez. After what we went through this past year, I do believe that we need an independent attorney.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes,
Just a slight correction to that, Denise. Melissa Shea at one point did come to all the meetings, and she was outside counsel. When she got brought inside, she was not legal counsel, she was head of HR.
Yeah, I remember.
So she wasn't here, when she was here, she was not here for anything legal whatsoever. We basically had no inside counsel. We were using all outside. Bulky Richardson was doing everything. Melissa was just working on HR.
I'm sorry if I misspoke. I remember clearly. It was
So that was untenable too. And creating our own in-house was created a solution. There was an inherent flaw and weakness in what we tried to do. And while I would disagree only when we said we couldn't trust the person that we went to, I vehemently disagree with that. I think that confidentiality was honored, but there's an inherent weakness in one person having divided loyalty. When you get to a point where it's clear that the committee and the department may not be on the same wavelength, you can't have one person answering two masters.
I agree with
That's right.
100%.
You know, it's having that separate counsel for the committee becomes necessary when that happens. And so one person can't answer to two different masters. I think, and if you want to go way, way, way back, we had an in-house counsel in Brian McCook.
Right.
And the school committee had Eddie Cooley. So it's almost, there was an in-house attorney and there was a school committee attorney in Eddie Cooley.
But Eddie Cooley did do a lot of the labor.
Eddie Cooley and Brian both went to the bargaining table, and it was a great game. Oh, no, I represent the committee. I can't approve that. No, I represent the department. I bargained against him. It was cute.
The cat and mouse.
So that was the inherent weakness of what we did before, is having there be a potential where one person would have divided loyalty, I can't have these two people on opposite side. What do I do? and it's a weakness, and I think we should correct it.
So I agree with you. My comments were in response to the mayor and what he was saying. So I agree. I mean, we've done it both ways, and at the end of the day, we need someone independent.
I would agree that it's a good idea for us to have our own council.
So just if we get some closure on this, the discussion, are we in agreement, though, that it would be someone or a firm or he or she that is on call? Because I don't think we're going to expend $250,000 to have somebody sit here and tell us about Robert's rules.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Mayor.
I think the intent is to do an RFP with the scope of services that has kind of an range that it would be. And that way, the firm knows what they're getting in for, and we know what we're getting in for.
Superintendent Denault, do you have any comments or questions? Or you?
I do not.
She's learning very quickly.
Smart lady.
Okay, so at least we have a pathway here. Again, I'm not crazy about this, but the pathway would be that it would be someone, he or she, or firm on call for the school committee if something specific comes up that is divided. Okay, any other discussion on that?
So then, can we ask, the only motion that between HR and finance, that they come up with an RFP scope of services for us, so that start working on it right away so we can get going?
Yes.
Oh, can I just?
Yeah, Attorney Murphy.
We don't need an RFP for professional services. I mean, we can just, in fact.
We don't have to necessarily put it out.
We really want to go through an RFP. I mean, that's going to take months. I mean, professional services, we can just we can advertise in all of the periodicals, legal periodicals, Mass Lawyers Weekly.
While legal services are exempt from 30B procurement, the only reason I'm talking about an RFP is even if we just get quotes, we want to get it from firms that do the work, I think. And legal services are exempt from 30B, so you're right. We don't have to go the formal RFP process.
At least you get the little competition there. 11 cents. Not 50 cents, 11 cents. Okay, any other discussion? So there seems to be a marching orders of what we're looking to do. Okay, thank you very much, Director Williams. Okay, we'll move to reports of standing committees. A is student and parent concerns. Ms. Gresham?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. B is buildings and maintenance committee. Mr. Collins?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
C is legislative contracts committee. Ms. Naylor?
All items have gone before us today.
Thank you, Ms. Naylor. D is curriculum programs committee. Ms. Hurst?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All items have gone before us this evening.
And thank you to the chairs for your subcommittee work. E is budget and finance committee. Mr. Collins?
We also have discussed all of the items from that committee.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. F is vocational education committee.
No report.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. G is technology committee. Vice Chair Gonzalez?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. H is school safety committee. Ms. Gresham?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I is diversity, equity, inclusion. Ms. Hurst?
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move to the report of the superintendent. Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denault.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am mindful of the time, so I do not want my first meeting to be a meeting that folks remember in a very negative way. So I will keep it very, very brief. I was warmly welcomed by the administrators. We started our school year with our administrators on August 15th, and we celebrated the successes of the leaders in the schools as we introduced the 500 Club, which would be an opportunity for our principals and leaders to strive to be inducted in this very special and set-apart club for those who are exceeding expectations on the MCAS assessment. We also shared our 3-phase plan of action as well as portrait of a graduate alignment. Our first day of school visit was a success. I enjoyed visiting Dorman, Putnam, Duggan, and South End Middle. Each one of those schools had students who were ready to learn, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for joining me at Duggan Academy. I think we had a great time. there was a young man who thought that the mayor walked on water. He almost came out of his seat when he saw the mayor and got his autograph. So I was thrilled with that.
Talk to my wife. She keeps me humble and in check.
Well, we appreciate your support. It was a great first day, and our first day attendance was 92.1%. We look forward to maintaining that as well as going higher. We want to make sure that our attendance campaign that we are going to be launching in collaboration with the mayor's office and other community leaders and industry leaders will be a rousing success. Transportation, as you know, we are looking at plans for what we will do if we have to provide transportation, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that things will go smoothly on Wednesday morning when school opens back up for our students, but we're keeping a close eye on negotiations with PVTA. First day, new playground updates. We have students who are happy that their playgrounds are installed, safe, colorful, and ready for a whole lot of fun. Balliet Pre-K, Dorman, Dryden, Glenwood, Indian Orchard, Kensington, Walsh, Bulls, White Street, and Liberty. All playgrounds are ready to go, and we just appreciate the fact that we are using those funds wisely to build projects that will last for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal. Any questions or comments? I would, Vice Chair Gonzalez?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to note, Dr. Denal, that I appreciate this succinct report because it really gives the committee a dashboard outlook into the district, the way in which you formatted it. The only thing that I would just add that would be interesting to see, as I know that folks are going through several issues in the workforce side, is for us to be able to get an outlook, part of this report, in terms of personnel and vacancies, especially now that we're posting some of the jobs. But I know just district-wide, be interesting to see that dashboard. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. I want to add, too, and she, a little humble here, we had a great convocation.
Oh, yeah.
We've had many very good, but there was a special vibe and energy there. You could sense it, and the speakers, but especially Dr. No. But everybody, I'm not, boy, there was something different, and we've had great convocations, but there was something different about it. So that should be noted. And with the PVTA, we hope for the best. But we're going to prepare for the worst.
Yes.
And there'll be messaging coming out very shortly from the board. Dr. Denal has already, an email has gone out to school committee members, Pat, what we're looking to do alternative on it. We respect and appreciate what the bus drivers do, but we also want to make sure that, as we do on our side, that anything that comes across is sustainable and doesn't, go to service cuts or route cuts or layoffs, but we'll continue to try to negotiate if they want to continue to negotiate, but we're hoping for the best. We'd like to get this thing resolved ASAP in a reasonable, sustainable, financially fiscal way that respects both sides and our riders, but we'll prepare for the worst. My first objective, I believe all with the superintendent we spoke about, is our students. About 2,000 students take the PVTA buses. Okay. And as you know, I pay for that on the city side, and that's about $800,000 on top of the 30. We're near $40 million it pays. So that's our first priority, and then we also concerned about residents and people going to work and seniors disabled, but that's the first concern with my school committee chair hat here. So we hope for the best, and we don't really have direct control. This is a private entity on it, and then we're going to prepare for the worst. So we'll get through this and just see if a strike does occur, what the duration of that. So there'll be upcoming information coming out on that, and then we've had a great. Dr. Denal was with me at my old alma mater, White Street School. We met again with MSBA officials. We've got a great relationship with them. over nearly $1 billion of new, and Pat was their new and rehab schools. Pat was the financial czar here, I had my financial czar, and I told them again, you give us the go, I'll have the money on my side for a new White Street school and also a new Kensington Avenue school down the road. So we're prepping on that, and presentations were made to the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority officials. Horena's already on, we're going to move forward on Horena, but we did that, and that White Street pad is 1904, I believe, and the addition was 1931. They're separated buildings, so I remember as a kid, if you had to go to the other building, no matter what the weather was, you had to go through that weather. And then Kensington, so we're trying to set the table, as I said, to continue to build new schools and rehab new schools. So that was a meeting we attended early one morning at White Street on it. So we're gonna keep moving forward. So I just wanted to elaborate a little more on the superintendent's.
May I respond?
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez, thank you so much for bringing up the staffing and vacancies. It is a concern of ours. We made a very strategic and intentional decision to bring Roberto Ortiz, principal of STEM Middle School. We brought him on board as principal on assignment. He has been doing a phenomenal job helping us shrink that very long list of vacancies to something that's much more manageable. He is in there looking to make sure that he's supporting each and every one of our principals so that we can have zero or very low vacancies and making sure that our staffing meets the needs of our students. So thank you for bringing that up, and we will definitely keep you posted on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, is there,
So moved.
what, hold on.
Oh.
Let me,
No.
I want to jump to that, Denise, but I have to, okay. Is there any unfinished business?
Oh.
No, okay. Any new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Chris. That's you, that's you.
It's not usually my chair, but, you know.
Yes, Mr. Khan. I'm just kidding.
It was with a great deal of interest and a bit of dismay that I read that article in the paper this morning about Discovery School, and now they're calling it Discovery Polytech School. And I say dismay because that school, the genesis for that school was Mr. Bruntnell, not Bruntnell, anyway. We discussed that as a way to generate and create homegrown teachers. And then they added that for some career path, a second career path. The aspect of the fact that this was to look for students within our own school system, connect them with college, and create where they could do internship and things within the school and be a breeding ground for our own teachers, and find a way to fund that education so that they could then come and give back to us, seems to have gotten lost. At least it wasn't mentioned in the article at all. The other thing that gave me a pause for concern and dismay was when I read that they said that the school committee voted to approve to move into a high-rise in April of 23.
There was no,
I remember no such thing. I asked the secretary to go back and look at our minutes. We never took a vote to move a school into a high-rise. What the heck does it cost to rent 2 floors of a high-rise building? And why isn't that money being spent on kids rather than rental in a building like that when they're in space that's already there? There's a lot of, that brought up a lot of questions and a lot of anxiety for me, that article. And we know that we go to subcommittee meetings, and in that same building right next door to us is a daycare for the Y, and we hear the ruckus and the problems with traffic just from that small little daycare. We have no idea provisions were made for, we know parents are going to drive them to school whether they say they're going to or not. It's going to be like every other school. There's going to be these people parking and all over and blocking traffic. It's just that we didn't do this.
No.
And to have someone say that we took a vote to spend taxpayer dollars to rent 2 floors of a high-rise building and not have it answered, I couldn't let that sit and go, because we did not make that vote.
That vote was done through the Empowerment Zone Board, and initially, I think it was on about a program initiative. I did, and those, believe me, the message been sent on those issues of parking and drop-off, et cetera, and that they had to work closely with the city team, which was not evident. I did, they asked me to come visit, and I did, and the kids that took me around were outstanding. I think there was a lot of, in some of the articles, some misinformation on that, or was misunderstood on it, and but the kids were outstanding in the careers that they're moving. Many of those kids are garnering 42, 44 college credits already on it. But that was through, on the empowerment board that voted that. That wasn't the school committee. And I think it was put about as a program initiative. And I think earlier on that there was not, at least if I remember correctly, with the retired superintendent, that there was not going to be any movement of students, but they went ahead and did that. They're there now. You know, we want them to, our students to do well, but those things, believe me, were brought to their attention that had to be clarified, and that's what's being done at this point in time. But that was the empowerment zone made that move. I'll leave it at that. I'm glad I did go, and the kids were very impressive, and the opportunities are excited, but the way it came about.
Yeah, I'm not disparaging that program. I think that's a great school and a great program, and it's doing wonderful things with kids. And they were doing it in the building they were in as well. I just, that rent is recurring. That's not going to go away. I assume, if the law, unless the law has changed, that they're paying it with the money that we're giving to the empowerment zone under the student. We give them a per capita, because they have to pay it for 3 years, but then it goes on to you?
Well, I was told, Pat, I don't know if you want to, on that, I was told that the city would not, the school would be on the hook on that, but.
Nothing's been submitted to me, so I can't answer that question.
So we don't know what the rent or how that's working?
Nothing's been submitted to me, so I cannot answer that question.
So they're paying that on their dime?
I honestly have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to tell him, he does the finance for, he'd know that too.
Yeah, so.
We do need to tighten up on communication with that, sir.
So I don't know if the article, if the media source that wrote the article made a mistake and they meant the zone board or the ZEP board and not the school committee, but don't we have representation on the ZEP board? So who was on it in April when this vote was taken?
Yes?
Yes, all I remember on, I think, Gonzalez indicated a program initiative. And what was last left to me with the retired superintendent was that there was not going to, it was told not to have any movement of the, 200, 250 kids to a separate site. Evidently, because I would have questioned that on the, I would have questioned that, saying, wait a minute, there's proper procedures and protocols when you do this. You have to, with the traffic, DPW, you have to do that with the building, our building commissioner and our fire commissioner. Now, that's all being put into place. So I don't want to say misrepresentation, but it wasn't clarified that there was going to be a massive movement on it. Point is, they're down there now, and we want them to be able to succeed. Mr. Collins, those are things that I voiced after the fact when it was told that they were coming downtown. And I said, geez, I don't recall that specific move that they were going to be moving down here. But they're down here now. I had my team was there the other day. I think they're regrouping again tomorrow with the the authorities there, the building authorities there. But I don't think the rollout of this, wasn't, as Superintendent Dr. Nell just said to me, there was not good communication on it. A vote was taken, as far as a vote was talking about a program initiative, so you think, after-school program or this or that. I don't recall seeing anything mentioning about 200, 250 kids being moved to the downtown area. If I'm correct, Dr. Ball, I don't recall that whatsoever. But they're there. They're there now. And
Mr. Mayor, I was also on the board as well at that time, and no, I did not vote on that either.
because
So.
it was brought attention to you. I said, yeah, I do recall, but it wasn't spelled out at all. We just said a program initiative, being in the workforce development, being out there. But I do recall retired Superintendent Warwick indicating when questions came up that this school wanted to move to a separate campus site, it was told that you have enough room down there to do that separate type initiative and they could still go to college. That's where it was left at that point in time. So it did.
It would appear, Mr. Mayor, that this went from concept to concrete.
Right.
With no due diligence. And and this is public money. I know we don't control it because they have a separate board.
Yeah.
But it is public money, and we send that money over there. And with that money comes the fact that they're supposed to follow procurement laws and all the same things that we are. And I'll bet if we take a look at this, that none of those practices were followed.
Well, getting into, and again, procurement and the weeds of that, my point was about you're coming to a downtown area, which is, great to have the kids there and they experience it, but I go with my city hat now. Traffic, pickups, drop-offs, that's a highly congested area there. Obviously, you're doing school stuff in a commercial building. That's where the building department, Commissioner Desilette, comes into play. And then, your fire commissioner comes into play. And I just think that maybe, I'm not saying any ill intent, that they assumed all these things would just fall into place. And they did not. I mean, now they're falling into place. The point is, they're there now. They're there. And, we want our kids to succeed. The kids that took me around were outstanding. Outstanding in some of the careers they're going on. But, yes, I'd have to say, with Ms. Naylor, there obviously was some miscommunication here because that's right next door to me. And I know the traffic congestion we have here, and I would have brought those questions up pertaining to that, and also other things about you going into a commercial building on it. So they've heard me loud and clear on that, but I don't think, and Ms. Naylor was it, I don't recall, it was, I thought it was more of a concept, but it wasn't specific. And Superintendent Warwick, retired Superintendent Warwick indicated that the entities down there were told, no moves, do it down there. And that's the last I heard of it. So.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Collins, for raising those concerns. I just want to bring to recollection, I think certainly there was some concerns on the move, but I think it's important to note that, Ms. Naylor, this was after your time on the ZEP board, but this did come forward to a ZEP board meeting. And if my memory serves me correctly, everyone, myself, the mayor, the others that serve on the board, and this past spring, we did vote to approve. To my understanding, I don't think that the folks at the table fully understood, a lot of these rules that needed to be complied with and the city side of it, but it did go through the board, and I think that the aftermath, to my understanding, that the leaders of the zone, kind of found out that all these things needed to be complied with. But I don't think that, I understand the concerns. It's taxpayer money. We are a steward to financial, but, for me at least, I don't think it's fair to throw it on them as doing something haphazardly. I think certainly well-intended. I think they were, misinformed in terms of process, but it did go through a ZEP board meeting. Myself, the mayor were present, and it did receive an affirmative vote by everyone at that meeting. So I think, these type of things happen. I hate to give that type of answer because it's costing that much money, but that's the reality. And I think we have to bear with the truth of the matter, and that's what happened.
Thank you for clarifying, Mr. Gonzalez, because I remembered the concept of it when I was on the board, and I just was like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember voting on that, but that makes sense because I wasn't there at the time when the vote took place.
But the Vice Chair Gonzalez, I do not recall them specifically saying that we're going to be moving a body of 250 students into downtown Springfield. I just count out there, and again, in my conversations with now retired Superintendent Warwick, it was indicated that that wasn't going to happen. You could do that down in your current site, and that's where we left it. So I read it as, and I don't think there was a lot in that, there wasn't a lot. It was looking at a new program initiative to get kids workforce and career development and college credits. But the point is, to piggyback off of Vice Chair Gonzalez indicated, they're there now. They're there now. And you don't want to cause any type of disruption. But I think you're right. Well, I know you're right, because I told him, I said, there's process and protocols when these moves occur when it comes on the city side. And I think they just assumed that they were all set. And they were not. They're moving toward with that. I know now things have been ironed out. I did go. They asked me to come over to see the kids, and I did, and they were great. But in firm terms, I told them that, a lot of things, process was done here that was not followed. But I got to make sure that the kids don't get disrupted and they can move forward. But those traffic, fire review, and building review are currently being done or been done on it. But there, as Dr. Donnell indicated, some miscommunication on this, and there was a lot of assumption that went on, and I voiced that to the board, and they've given me an assurance that everything's going to be followed.
I will say, Mr. Mayor, that if that had been us, we'd have several state agencies breathing down our neck right now.
Agreed. Maybe I should have moved right to adjournment.
It would seem to me that if we're going to have this conversation, we should ask the ZEP board leaders.
Yeah, that's fine with.
We can have
Yeah.
full explanation instead of us speculating. And I mean, I feel bad for the kids and for the teachers and whoever else is listening to this meeting and feeling bad about this school and not necessarily understanding all of the things that go into it. But if we have a true issue with what happened and we don't want it to happen again, then have ZEP come before us.
I agree with you on that.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I do know that both co-executive directors most definitely are committed to fully collaborating with the school committee and to make sure that they are in compliance so that the students can have that enriching experience in their new location. So they will be more than willing. I know that we have definitely strengthened our partnership, and we will continue to collaborate to improve our communication.
Thank you, Dr. Donnell. Any other questions or comments?
Move we adjourn.
No, new business, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I thought that was new.
That was unfinished.
So that was new business.
That was new business.
Oh, I have something to bring before on new business. My apologies. I just want to bring up several complaints and concerns that I've received in regards to the student assignment services And the reason that I bring those up publicly is because folks have reached out and also have made public comments, both on, that I've seen on social media, both have made messages to myself. Several other elected officials have reached out in regards to this matter. And the only thing that I would request under this new business item, Dr. Denal, and I want to acknowledge that, Mr. Roach, you've been doing a great job in terms of the operations on it, is that we would be able to get a report at the next body's meeting on SAS and just under the following items on phone lines. I had one particular individual reach out to me and told me that they'd been calling for 4 weeks and couldn't get through to anybody to register their child. Wait to register. I had an individual reach out that the school year had started, and they had started the process prior to the school year beginning, and they still couldn't register their child. And the third piece that I'm interested to hear from the team, Dr. Denal and Mr. Roach, is what are we doing around innovation? How do we make this system better? How do we improve it? Because it's been evident that this year, this has been a challenge. I know at the opening of every school year, we have challenges. Last year, it was transportation. We had some issues around food, and this year, it happens to be our student assignment services. It doesn't take away from the great work all of you are doing. I just have to make sure, and I think my colleagues as well, that we're being responsive to the concerns of constituents. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. Yes, you may.
Okay. I'll keep it brief. But thank you so much, because you're absolutely right. We have received those concerns. Chief Escribano has been on top of it. He's been amazing. Also, Chief Roach, as well as the team over at SAS, we've definitely been making it a priority to address the parents' concerns and the family concerns. We, as you, have to make sure that our students are in there on the first day of school and that we are creating a welcoming environment for all of our scholars and families when they show up at that student assignment center. So we will most definitely look into that. We take it seriously. We have already begun problem solving on all of those because we are aware of them, and we will definitely get that report to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, Dr. Denal. Thank you, Vice Chair Gonzalez. Now, is there a motion on the...
So moved.
Oh, boy, all right. Quick draw like that. Motion made by Ms. Naylor, seconded by Attorney Murphy. Roll call vote is required. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Monroe-Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Ms. Gresham?
Yes.
Ms. Hurst?
Yes.
Attorney Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And Mayor Sarno?
Yes, more than sufficient vote. This matter passes. Thank you for watching. Good evening, good health, and God bless. Thank you.